I never thought I'd be grateful for installing security cameras around my pool, but those cameras ended up being the star witnesses in what became known as the Great HOA Cement Scandal in our quiet suburban community of Pine Grove Estates. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how our Homeowners Association president's vendetta against my unauthorized pool renovation turned into a felony charge that made our local evening news. It all started last spring when I decided to update my backyard pool. The original 1990s design was showing its age, and after a particularly successful year at my architectural firm, I had the funds to give it a proper facelift. I followed every protocol in our HOA handbook to the letter, submitted detailed plans, included material samples, and even created a 3D rendering to show the minimal visual impact from the street. The renovation would update the tile work, add some modern safety features, and install energy-efficient equipment. Nothing outrageous, just a tasteful modernization. The plans sailed through the initial HOA review board meeting with 4 out of 5 members voting in favor. The only dissenting vote came from Patricia Wellington, our newly elected HOA president. I should have recognized the warning signs when she spent 15 minutes arguing that the proposed blue tiles were too Mediterranean for our traditional American neighborhood. But I had the majority approval, so I scheduled the work to begin the following month. That's when the letters started arriving. First, it was a notice about my grass being 4 inches too tall. Then came a warning about my mailbox being insufficiently reflective. When I installed a security camera doorbell, which was explicitly permitted in our HOA guidelines, I received a citation for surveillance equipment visible from the street. Each letter was signed with Patricia's signature, complete with a little smiley face that somehow made it feel more threatening. The pool renovation began on schedule, and that's when Patricia really ramped up her campaign. She would park her white Mercedes SUV across the street every morning, photographing the workers and taking notes on her iPad. When I confronted her about it, she smiled that saccharine smile and said, "Oh, I'm just documenting all the violations for our monthly meeting, sweetie. Someone has to maintain our community standards." I tried to be reasonable. I invited her to inspect the work up close, offered to show her the approved plans again, and even suggested we discuss her concerns over coffee. Her response? "I don't fraternize with rule breakers. It sets a bad precedent." Mind you, this was the same woman who had somehow gotten approval for a giant topiary shaped like a unicorn in her front yard. The renovation was nearly complete when I received an emergency notice from the HOA. According to Patricia, an anonymous concerned resident had reported that my pool's new depth markers were in Arial font instead of the traditional Times New Roman specified in Section 7.3.2 of the pool guidelines. The notice demanded I cease all work immediately pending a special review session, which couldn't be scheduled for another 6 weeks due to procedural requirements. I'll admit I lost my cool a bit at that point. I marched over to Patricia's house, guidelines in hand, ready to point out that there was no such font specification anywhere in the documents. She opened her door wearing a tennis outfit and holding a glass of white wine, though it was barely 11 a.m. "Oh, Sarah," she said, examining her perfectly manicured nails. "I was just about to call you. The board has received several more complaints about your little project. I'm afraid we'll have to add those to the review agenda as well." That's when I noticed she had a copy of the HOA guidelines on her entry table, and it looked significantly thicker than mine. When I asked about the discrepancy, she just smiled and said, "This is the president's copy. It has all the amendments that haven't been formally distributed yet. We have to maintain some executive privileges, don't we?" I left her house seething but determined to handle this professionally. I emailed the entire HOA board requesting an emergency meeting to address these issues. 3 board members responded sympathetically, apparently unaware of these supposed amendments Patricia kept citing. We scheduled a meeting for the following week, much to Patricia's obvious displeasure when she was copied on the confirmation email. The night before the meeting, I was working late in my home office when I heard the distinct sound of a truck backing up outside. I thought nothing of it at first until I heard voices in my backyard. Looking at my security camera feed, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A cement truck was parked in the alley behind my house, and there was Patricia, in her designer workout gear, directing 2 very confused-looking workers toward my pool. I grabbed my phone and started recording as I ran downstairs, but I was about to learn that sometimes karma works in mysterious and deeply satisfying ways. Because Patricia Wellington was so focused on supervising her midnight cement delivery, she failed to notice three very important things. 1. The unmarked police car parked down the street conducting a routine patrol. 2. The fact that she'd triggered my new security floodlights. 3. And most importantly, that she was standing on the exact spot where my pool contractor had carefully marked a major underground power line. What happened next would change our neighborhood forever, though not in the way Patricia had planned. As I stood there in my pajamas, phone recording everything, I had no idea that this was just the beginning of a scandal that would ultimately involve 2 district attorneys, one very interested FBI agent, and a surprising revelation about Patricia's mysterious source of income that would make even the most dramatic reality TV show seem tame in comparison. The next few minutes were pure chaos. The security floodlights had activated my new camera system's automatic recording feature, capturing crystal clear footage as Patricia imperiously directed the cement truck workers to just start pumping it in. "I have full homeowners association authority," she declared. The workers, who looked increasingly uncomfortable, kept trying to show her something on their phones, probably the permit requirements for filling in a residential pool. That's when Officer James Rodriguez, who had been quietly observing from his patrol car, decided to investigate the unusual midnight construction activity. He walked up just as Patricia was saying, "I don't care what your company policy is. I'm paying triple your normal rate specifically so we can do this now." I'll never forget the look on Patricia's face when the officer cleared his throat and said, "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see the permits for this work." She spun around so fast she almost lost her balance, her designer athleisure were glowing eerily in the security lights. "Officer. Thank goodness you're here." Patricia switched to her sugar-sweet voice. "This pool has been declared a community hazard by the Homeowners Association. I'm simply executing an emergency abatement order." She reached into her Lululemon jacket and pulled out what appeared to be an official-looking document. Officer Rodriguez took the paper and studied it carefully. "Ma'am, this appears to be an HOA meeting agenda with some handwritten notes. That's not a legal permit for construction work, especially not at midnight, on someone else's property." That's when I decided to speak up. "Officer, I'm the homeowner, and I definitely didn't authorize this." I held up my phone to show I'd been recording everything. The cement truck workers looked relieved and quickly started packing up their equipment. Patricia's face went through an impressive range of emotions before settling on righteous indignation. "This is a private community matter. You have no jurisdiction here." She actually stamped her foot, which would have been comical if she hadn't been trying to destroy my $75,000 pool renovation. Officer Rodriguez remained professionally calm. "Ma'am, attempting to pour cement into someone's pool without their permission could constitute several criminal offenses, including attempted vandalism and criminal mischief. I'm going to have to ask everyone to provide identification." Patricia's face turned an unnatural shade of red as she sputtered, "This is ridiculous. I am the HOA president. I have full authority over community infractions. That pool is a violation, and I was merely enforcing regulations." Officer Rodriguez remained unimpressed. "Ma'am, HOA rules do not override local property laws. And from what I can see, you are trespassing and attempting to cause significant property damage." Patricia's eyes darted between me, the workers, and the officer. She still hadn't fully grasped the situation, or maybe she was just so used to getting her way that she thought she could talk her way out of it. "The HOA has the right to enforce compliance," she insisted, attempting to regain her composure. "If a homeowner refuses to correct violations, we have the authority to take action." Rodriguez glanced at me. "Ma'am, did you receive any legal notice requiring you to remove or modify your pool?" I shook my head. "No, officer. I have all the approvals necessary for my renovation. The only notices I've received were petty citations issued directly by Patricia, things like the height of my grass and mailbox reflectivity." The officer nodded. "That's what I thought." He turned back to Patricia. "Unless you have a legally binding court order, you have no right to enforce anything. What you do have is a situation that could land you with some serious charges." Patricia's mask of smug authority cracked just a little. I was only doing what was best for the community. Officer Rodriguez didn't buy it. Ma'am, step away from the property. I need to collect statements. At this point, the cement truck workers, having had enough of the drama, were already climbing back into their vehicle. One of them gave me an apologetic look and said, "Lady, we didn't know this was illegal. We just got a call from someone offering triple pay for a rush job." I nodded, knowing they weren't the real culprits. I understand. Just be sure to document everything for your company. They didn't need to be told twice. As the truck's engine rumbled to life, Patricia's panic became visible. She whirled on them. "Wait. Where are you going? You're not finished." The driver rolled his eyes. "Lady, I'm not getting arrested for you." With that, they drove off, leaving Patricia standing there in stunned disbelief. I let out a relieved sigh, but the night wasn't over yet. Rodriguez called for backup, and within minutes, another patrol car arrived. Patricia, still in denial, tried one last time to spin the situation in her favor. "This is unnecessary. I am a respected member of this community. You can't possibly think I had any criminal intent." But then, Officer Rodriguez dropped the bombshell. "Ma'am, do you have any idea how much damage pouring cement into a functioning pool can cause? You would have destroyed the plumbing, the filtration system, and potentially caused structural issues to the surrounding area. That's not just an HOA dispute, that's felony-level property damage." "Felony." Patricia went silent. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She probably thought she could get away with a fine or some community service, but a felony? That was a whole different level of consequences. Rodriguez wasn't finished. Additionally, you hired laborers under false pretenses, misrepresented your authority, and trespassed onto private property. That's not just an HOA matter, that's a legal matter. Patricia's confidence crumbled. I didn't mean for it to go this far," she mumbled. Rodriguez took out his handcuffs. "Ma'am, at this point, I have probable cause to detain you for attempted property destruction. You have the right to remain silent." That's when Patricia finally broke down. "No. Wait. You can't arrest me. I'm the president of the HOA," she wailed, as though that title held some magical immunity. It did not. Rodriguez calmly finished reading her rights as his partner helped escort her to the patrol car. I watched, my heart pounding, as Patricia was placed in the back seat. Even then, she was still muttering to herself about ungrateful neighbors and rules being rules. As the patrol car pulled away, I took a deep breath, trying to process what had just happened. The great HOA cement scandal was over, at least for now. The fallout. The next morning, the neighborhood was buzzing with the news. Word spread fast in Pine Grove Estates, and by noon, everyone knew about Patricia's late-night escapade. It turned out that many of my neighbors had grievances against her but had been too intimidated to fight back. My security footage, now in the hands of law enforcement, was the final straw that gave people the courage to speak up. A special HOA meeting was called within days, and for the first time in years, attendance was standing room only. The remaining board members were clearly shaken by Patricia's actions and announced an immediate vote to remove her from office. The vote was unanimous. Patricia was out. But that wasn't the end of it. An investigation into HOA finances revealed some very suspicious expenditures under Patricia's management. Luxury dinners, personal travel, and even designer clothes had been filed as community improvement expenses. That's when the FBI got involved. It turned out that Patricia had been embezzling HOA funds for years. What started as small administrative fees had grown into thousands of dollars siphoned from homeowners' dues. Her attempts to cement my pool weren't just about enforcing rules, they were about control. She had been used to operating unchecked, and my refusal to bow to her authority had threatened her sense of power. Patricia was formally charged with fraud, property damage, and embezzlement. She took a plea deal, which included a hefty fine, full restitution to the HOA, and community service, ironically, in the very neighborhood she once ruled over. A new chapter. With Patricia gone, the HOA underwent serious reforms. The new board members focused on transparency, fair enforcement, and most importantly, listening to the homeowners. As for my pool, after some repairs to fix the minor damage Patricia's antics had caused, it turned out better than I had imagined. Every time I take a swim, I can't help but smile, knowing that it represents more than just a renovation. It represents standing up against entitlement. It represents justice. And most of all, it represents the fact that no matter how much power someone thinks they have, cementing over other people's lives never ends well.